Looks like we're starting off strong with Leon S. Kennedy right there. Ooh, okay. Liking that combat so far.
With
Oh
the
my god.
triumphant return of Leon Kennedy, Resident Evil Requiem is forced to straddle an awkward line between all-out action and methodical survival horror. I'll be honest, before getting my hands on the game and seeing the transition in action, I was extremely skeptical that
giant
Capcom would be able
babies
to
giving
create
village.
a coherent experience involving both Leon and Grace, the latest highly vulnerable
Nice
protagonist.
dodge. Nice dodge. Combats for... Oh, sorry. The movement for Leon will be really fun for speedruns, I think. You'll be able to bait zombies.
The
I'm gonna
switching
guess.
between their polar opposite styles sounds jarring, which is almost never a good thing. And although it's been a while, it's not like we haven't been burned by Capcom's desire to push the series towards action before. But I'm pleased to share that, from my all too brief 3 hours of hands-on time with Resident Evil Requiem, not only does this design really work, but there's also a lot more going on than just a merging of Resident Evil's greatest hits.
That's too effective.
My playtime started with a short test drive of Leon, and Resident Evil 4 muscle memory kicked in immediately. Make no mistake, this plays just like the recent remake, enhanced with some new clever additions suitable for a veteran badass.
Nice.
Leon is more handy than ever, with a deadly hatchet that he can swing mercilessly added to his regular arsenal. Leon can also heave axes found in the world, can perform new contextual finishing moves.
Ooh, I like that finishing move. That was cool.
And finally
That one was
wield
nice
the
too.
violent chainsaw. There was once a time when Leon feared the chainsaw, but now Leon has become Chainsaw, destroyer of ghouls.
Ooh.
After a short 15 minutes, the gameplay shifted perspective to Grace Ashcroft, Requiem's second protagonist, picking up her journey immediately after the events of the previous demo I wrote about in August last year. Grace and Leon are polar opposites.
That's so RE4
gone with the
coded.
tense
I'm into that.
gunfights and forward momentum of Resident Evil 4, as I was immediately thrust into what felt like a sterile, white, clean version of Resident Evil 7. For the next 2 hours, I explored the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, a somewhat traditional Resident Evil mansion that contains much of what you might expect among its rooms and corridors, but with plenty of new surprises. Surprises that mostly arise thanks to Grace's abilities, or rather, lack thereof. Much like in the previous demo, Grace's section was focused almost exclusively on survival horror. She is armed with a small pistol that she finds in the environment, but her firepower and combat skills are negligible compared to our favourite floppy-haired icon. Where Leon can roundhouse kick
Leon be
zombies in the face,
suplexing. That's
Grace
true.
makes do with a clumsy push. Leon is all-out assault, but the best course of action for Grace is slow and deliberate stealth. Because if you do try to take some of the new enemies head-on, you're gonna have a bad time.
Oh, whoa, he's big boy.
Last year's demo revealed a new and much celebrated stalker enemy,
Ooh,
a
I like
towering,
this.
hunched, bug-eyed warden. But even within the span of my short 3-hour session, I was introduced to another two, giving me the impression that Resident Evil Requiem won't have one Mr. X or Nemesis-like persistent threat, but rather several smaller pursuers that seem to guard certain wings of the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center. Most notable was a hulking massive blubber called Chunk, who burst through the wall and into my heart as he slowly but surely ground his way through the halls, stairwells, and doorways in pursuit of me.
Jesus
Uniquely,
Christ.
Chunk fills the space entirely, so your only chance of survival is to find and navigate loops built into the level design in order to outmaneuver the walking lardass. It's a clever design that generates
Well, you're
a
playing as
somewhat
Grace
living,
and as,
breathing wall of terror,
Leon,
and
so
one
technically
you
you've
can't
got two
simply
protagonists.
sidestep or combat roll away from.
In the same way that you've got like Jill and Carlos, right? Not that you start with
Much
one
like
or the other,
stalker
it's
I
like you play
escaped
with
last year,
both.
Chunk is cleverly implemented into the context of traditional safe rooms. Where the room's bright light caused the previous stalker pain, Chunk simply can't physically squeeze his sheer mass through the door, making sure that there's a
I
logical
like that.
in-world justification
that's
for
good.
a room of respite. As
Yeah,
well as
that's
Chunk,
good. He
I
can't
also
fit himself
ran
through
into
the
a
room.
7-foot-tall
That's
hulking
good.
unit masquerading as a chef.
Yeah,
who,
works well.
until he noticed me, was completely focused on his chopping chores. This soon-to-be stalker wasn't yet in searching mode. Rather, he was fulfilling, I assume, his pre-infection duties. And this kind of behavior isn't unique to the chef. It turns out in Resident Evil Requiem, the traditional zombie fodder is just as much a star of the show. You see, zombies not only talk now, but also have their own personalities.
Oh.
The undead are no longer unfortunate
They went into this a little
generic
bit.
lost souls, but rather husks that retain a smidge of living personalities, hanging out in the space that they once occupied. There's the lounge singing shrieker in the bar area, who, before being alerted, entertains herself by belting out a ditty. There are the zombies who are formerly patients in recovery that insist on wheeling around their drip stands, which are then, unsurprisingly, wielded as a weapon when they get aggroed. Some zombies hate loud noises and will repeatedly yell at you if you even so much as smash a vase. And then there's the one that loves nothing more than turning lights on and off until you rudely interrupt him. If it's not clear by now, Resident Evil Requiem, aside from being packed with action and fear, is also now funny, something that the series has never, at least intentionally, achieved before. As Grace creeps around the hospital, there's the continual threat that around every corner awaits horror, or laughter, or sometimes even both. When you can hear the undead nattering away in a room you know you have to enter to achieve your next objective, it's hard to know whether to be scared or have a good chuckle. On paper, this sounds like it could be awful. I'm aware of that, but honestly, it's so good. I laughed so hard when I caught one particular dopey zombie red-handed, both literally and figuratively, lifting a large and importantly red canister to throw my way. I'm sure you can imagine what happened next. The zombie fodder isn't just around to entertain and quickly be disposed of though. As Grace, the undead are a significant threat, always moving a little faster than you anticipate. Their fallen corpses also pose a significant conundrum, as they have the ability to turn into blister heads, a reinvention of Resident Evil Remake's Crimson Heads for a new generation, that reanimate with a bulbous cranium and become significantly tougher to take down. Fortunately, Grace has a new tool at her disposal. A hemolytic injector that weaponizes the buckets of blood lying around the place. Seriously, it's everywhere. Creating a lethal injection that can be used as a preventative measure against blister heads when injecting a fallen enemy, and as a stealth attack against anything that's still moving. Beyond the new enemy types, playing as Grace does feel familiar if you've played either Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 2. Although obviously
that's why we're playing 7 right now. That's why we're playing it. Exactly why we're playing it.
You're exploring a huge mansion with locked doors. There are obtuse puzzles to solve, antique coins to find.
I like the look of the puzzles actually.
Mr. Raccoons
look
to
at the
shoot,
detail on
safe
that
rooms
staircase,
with a
the marble.
for saving and a storage box for inventory management, and so forth. Leon, however, can brute force open certain doors that Grace can't, and is far more aggressive with combat compared to Grace's methodical stealth. You can also choose to play as Leon in first person, though after a brief dabble, it felt very unnatural to do so. I can't help but think Capcom built the game with Leon in third person and Grace in first person in mind, but it's hard to complain about more choice, despite knowing deep down the development team surely had a preference. My demo ended with a second, all too short stint as Leon, which allowed me to revisit sections of the care center I'd previously experienced with Grace. Interestingly, this section demonstrated perhaps my favorite element of this hybrid experience. Leon is also exposed to some of the tougher combat encounters that I'd suffered through as Grace, although the perspective, much like my viewpoint of choice, is very different. When I met Chunk as Grace, I immediately retreated and was forced into a game of cat and mouse. The threat is intimidating and encourages you to tread lightly. As Leon, however, emboldened by my newly acquired shotgun, I felt instantly trigger happy, unloading shells right up into Chunk's face and launching hatchet attacks on his head as part of a fight that felt somewhat reminiscent of the El Gigante encounters in Resident
Evil very
much.
4. I'm getting a big
Grace,
Resident Evil
Chunk
4
and his
vibe
fellow
from this
creeps
Leon
are
a
stalkers.
lot.
To Leon, they're targets.
I had a feeling it was going to
This
play a lot
ethos
like
was
4
reaffirmed when
Remake.
taking on a wave of blister heads with Leon at the end of my playtime. With Grace, I waited patiently for a stealth attack opportunity.
Oh, those finishing moves are
with Leon,
sick.
I was hurling hand grenades
So
and throwing
sick.
axes for fun.
There's a lot of variety in enemies though.
This
I feel like
year
that's
is
the one
30th
thing with
anniversary of the
7
Resident Evil series.
that
so it feels
was
like
like
no
it felt a bit
coincidence that
repetitive in 7.
2026's Resident Evil Requiem is combining the best ideas of the saga into what appears to be a fantastically constructed tribute to everything that makes the series so great. Do you like tense survival horror? It's here. Want to go all guns blazing with intense action and a quip-obsessed hero? You get to do that too. Do you prefer playing Resident Evil games in first or third person? Doesn't matter, you can do either. All of these choices, along with my fears of a jarring play experience being mostly squashed, make it easy to believe that Capcom's bold move to have its cake and eat it is going to pay off in a big way. If you like that video and want to find out more about Resident Evil Requiem, why not check out my previous preview where I discuss another stalker enemy in great detail. And for everything else, be sure to stick with IGN.
Nice. IGN killed that one, actually. I'm going to pop that video. I'll just pop that in the chat so you guys can give IGN a subscribe on YouTube and send them a bit of love. because they made a very great in-depth video. We watched through the previous playthrough that they did. So definitely check that out and sub to IGN. That was a really good roundup. I'm glad that they didn't spoil too much. Like, yeah, they revealed some of the enemies that we're going to be encountering, but I'm glad that it wasn't just like complete, like unedited, like 30 minutes of gameplay. Like, I'm glad that it was just like a little bit of a forecast of what's to come. I'm glad that it wasn't too much of a spoily. But so far, it's looking exactly how I think it's going to look. Like, I think Leon's going to play like RE4 Remake. Yeah, at the very least, though, give the video a like. It was a really good video. Send him a like on that one. Yeah, so far it's rounding up to be exactly what we want it to be, man. Like, it really is. Like, I love RE4 Remake. I really do. And I'm glad that, like, we're getting RE4 Remake Leon. Part of me was like, I don't know if we're going to get 6 Leon, but I'm glad that we're definitely getting, like, the combat from RE4. I suspected Grace's section was going to feel like 7. So that's kind of why I've been playing through RE7 in the background, because I had a feeling her sections were going to feel very much like it. The one thing with 7, it's like, it's just that balance between having action and also having the survival horror elements. It's a really finite balance. I feel like Capcom do handle that very, very well, but it felt like Village was a bit too much of action. And then 7 was like, it had the action, but it also had like very much more survival horror, but not as much variety. So you've kind of got they've kind of learned from 7 and Village. It's like, okay, we want the action, we want the survival horror, we've got the variety. I feel like this is gonna be a hit. I don't know. I just feel like this is gonna be a great game. My freaking expectations are through the roof for RE9. It looks very, very good so far. Everything that we've seen just ticks a lot of boxes for me. The hatchet instead of the knife is going to be interesting. It's almost like we're sharpening it like Monster Hunter. That's what it feels like. So it's like an interesting concept. I don't know if we're going to have any durability on the hatchet or just you've got to sharpen it so it doesn't break. I don't know how that plays into it. I'm assuming that that's maybe what they're going to do. I have a feeling like between Grace and Leon, I think it's going to be like a Jill and Carlo situation. I don't think it's going to be like an A and B scenario like Leon and Claire in RE2. I really feel like it's going to be like that. Damn. It's very cool though. It's very cool. I'm loving everything that I'm seeing. I don't know if we're going to get a demo or not. If we do get a demo, you know I'll be playing it for sure. I'll definitely be playing that for sure. It looks really good though. It looks really good so far. I'm glad that it wasn't too spoily. I'm glad that we've got some interesting stalker enemies, because we're used to having just Nemesis and Mr. X. And I don't know, Mr. X kind of gets repetitive after a while. Nemesis does like transform over time, so at least every time you encounter him, there's like a different force to deal with. So it's not that repetitive with Nemesis necessarily. But yeah, I don't know. Having like 3 different stalker enemies is interesting. And also having the enemies kind of remember what their past life was. So having the patients carrying around their drips with them, or having like the maid is in the bathroom and annoyed when you break vases. Like, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be a little bit more humorous. I feel like it definitely will be. A lot of the remakes were very, very serious and very intentionally so. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm just excited. I'm just excited. Any RE news, I'm just excited. I'm just here for the ride and here for the fun. It's gonna be cool. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today, gamers. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you haven't followed the Twitch channel, sub to the YouTubes, and checked out our other socials, please do. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow on the next one. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.